Hi, I'm Scott Hilbert, and this is a video about understanding how background colors and transparency work in GraphicsGale. It's something that really frustrated me a lot because GraphicsGale is usually a pretty good program to work with because it has all this animation features built in, like onion skinning and this little animation preview. But there are some kind of frustrating things that, if you don't understand how they work, you might never guess without experimenting for a long time like I did. So I'm going to try to share some of that information and hopefully it helps someone. Because you can be pretty productive in this program, but if you understand how it works. So um, the goal is that if you set it up right, you can use this neato onion skinning feature where you can have it show you, which is this little green running guy here, and it'll show you sort of a ghost of the previous and next frames, or only the previous and only the next, or whatever you want, or nothing. And it kind of helps you. You can help you kind of tween between frames, or to kind of draw. You can use it as a reference for drawing the next frame. Now, one of the other things I want to have this preview color be choosable pretty easily because you might want to, test your sprite on a dark background or a light background to make sure it doesn't look bad against those sorts of backgrounds, and you want to be able to change this background color pretty efficiently. And the last thing that you want is, at least what I want, is when I export and do file export to individual frames, you want the individual frames to have transparent colors where you mean for it to be transparent. Um, and that is important for using the images you make with the game, because it means that they're already transparent. You don't have to color key them when you load them. Now, getting all those things to work is a little bit tricky, and I'll show you how I do it. So I'll just kind of show you how I think GraphicsGale works under the hood. So the first thing I want to show you is how layer transparency works. So every frame has its own set of layers, and then each layer, I'll add another layer here, has its own transparency, color, and enable checkbox. So I created a new layer, and the transparent color is white. And so if I draw on top of it with black, any color other than white, it's going to be opaque. But if I draw on it with white, it acts like an eraser. So you can kind of see that this image right here is kind of like the true state of what GraphicsGale thinks this image is, this layer is, and then whatever color is you set up to be transparent is what becomes see-through when it adds on top of the bottom layer. And I realize now that I didn't really show you how to get to those options, but if you can see, I'm clicking on this little ellipsis button. So if you click the ellipsis for the layer, you get the layer properties. If you click the ellipsis for the frame, you get the frame properties. So yeah, so I'll show you how this works. So if you disable transparency on this little layer, then it becomes totally opaque. You can't see through the bottom at all. If I change the transparent color to black, then black becomes see-through. So you can kind of see how that works. And so that's a totally fine thing to do. And it's fine to do as long as it's not the bottom layer. My recommended workflow, I recommend the bottom layer do not be transparent. Don't make it transparent, because when you do, what happens is that all the areas that are transparent on the bottom layer are filled in automatically with the background color. And if you do it that way, you can kind of get it to work, but it requires extra steps to do some of the things that I like to do. So I recommend having the bottom layer be opaque, and then setting up the transparency, you set the transparency on the frame. So the way the frame transparency works is after all of the layers are composited, And there, so like if you had another layer on top, you can have all the stacks of layers, and they all get they're all transparent depending on their transparent color if you have one, and then that's all layered on top of an implicit background color. And then that whole opaque image that's all been flattened is color keyed for output by this transparent color in the frame. So this is the only place in the whole UI where you can actually set up the frame so that it actually exports to an opaque file. So if you disable it, for example, right here, and export again, then it's no longer transparent. You don't have a transparent PNG. It's like totally opaque. So this is the only place you can get. So that you definitely have to have this checked and have this color set up correctly, or else you're not getting transparent PNG output. And it's also the only place where setting it up is what gives you onion skinning. If you have it set up, if you have it off, even if both of your, unless you do something which I'm going to show you later, onion skinning does not, you can see how onion skinning is not there anymore. So, yeah, I recommend you have all of your first layers all be opaque, and then all of your frames, you can set them all to, you can click this all frames thing and set them all to have a transparent color, and then so they all export with whatever that color is being your ends up transparent in the output PNG files. So then once you have that all set up, it's really easy to change the color of this by you just go into the file properties and you change the background color. And it looks like it didn't work, and that's because GraphicsGale has this sort of weird bug where you can change it, and then unless it needs to redraw a window because you resize it, it doesn't change. So you can go in, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you don't need to do that, but if this is not matching this, then resize it and it'll fix itself. So that's the way I work, and that lets you get the transparent output PNG files. It lets you do the onion skinning, and it lets you do change this background color rapidly. There's another option, and this option is if you want to have this background color here be the same as this background color here and still have all of those things, except it's going to be a little bit slower to change the background color because you have to coordinate a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is, the goal is to have the same background color here and here. The output PNG files are transparent and onion skinning still works. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, pick an easy to reproduce. Pick some color you want that's easy to. I'm going to choose middle gray. And again, tweak, and now it comes up. And so this is not what I normally do, but if you right click here, you can change all the layers. Like if your layer ones are all named layer ones, you can change them all by going properties with same name across all frames, and you can make them all transparent and have your transparent color be whatever this color is in this little preview. You can see here that it's actually it's drawn so that magenta is meant to be opaque, transparent. So you set up that transparency, and now you can see you have the background color here, but there's no onion skinning, and if I export, it's going to be wrong. See, there's a background. So to fix that, you have to, you don't actually have to select all those. You can you edit a frame, select all frames, and set up the transparent color to be that gray for the frame as well. So we have to have this color has to match exactly the color for all the frames transparent color, and transparency has to be enabled on all frames. And so now you can see onion skinning works. It's the same color here and here. It's not bright pink and in your eyes. and you can export, and it's going to be transparent. And so the difference is whether you can stand method. The first method is, it'll show you your true color key color. Like I chose hot pink, so you have hot pink magenta in your face all the time, but it would look right there and it would look right when you export, and you can change this background color rapidly with only really 2 steps. But if you want to have them match the background color here and here, then you have to set the background color, change it here, and then for all of your frames, set up the same color as transparent. And you might have to wiggle the window again too, so that it adds a few more steps. But those are the 2 different methods. And I guess the only other thing I'd say to be aware of, if you ever get confused, is that this little icon here kind of shows you what the true before color keying version of that layer is. So that's a good thing to look at to tell what's really going on. And then also, when you're doing all this stuff with color keys, anytime you set up anything as a transparent color, you have to make sure that it is not a color you're using. So colors like white and black, which are like the default is white, are probably not good choices, because chances are you're going to want to use white. And if you use pure white and your transparent color is white, then you're going to have parts of your sprite that should be opaque coming out looking wrong. So I recommend using a color that's not going to be anywhere in your final sprite as your color key. And even when you're doing this method where you have the coordinated background colors, you have to make sure, because you're setting up your background color as the transparent color for the frame, it has to also not be something you're using, or else you'll accidentally get if I have it be something like this green I'm using, then you have this little ugly bit or like this, like the white in his pants. It's going to have issues, potentially have issues. Wasn't a very good example. But anyway, so hopefully that helped someone. And yeah, if this is helpful to anyone, I might make some more videos about what I've learned about using this program. So thanks for watching.